Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's story, my spiteful neighbor Karen repeatedly trespassed on my property and used my pool without permission. After I kicked her out, she destroyed my pool. Here is what happened. Subscribe to Ripe on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. Summer is a season a lot of us love, but sometimes you need something for the heat. This year I decided to build a swimming pool because I always wanted one, but I never had the time or the money. After 2 weeks the pool was ready, a beautiful big pool in my yard. It was everything you will ever need, but with such good news someone had to annoy me. My neighbor is the biggest Karen ever, no one around the neighborhood stands for her and I understand why. She always has something annoying to say. I was in the front yard mowing the grass when she stopped in front of my house. "I saw you build a swimming pool. When can my kids come for a swim?" I answered, "I don't think they can ever come. That's my pool for my family and my friends. Also, we are not even friends. There are public pools. Go there." "But we live in the same neighborhood. That means you have to share what you have with your neighbors." "That's crazy and untrue." "If so, you can build yourself a house in the forest so you don't have neighbors." I decided to ignore her and keep mowing the grass. She stayed there for another 5 minutes talking and shouting, but I did not hear a word, or at least I did not listen. The next day I woke up late and went to make myself some coffee and I saw her through the window. My neighbor Karen was swimming with her kids in the swimming pool. I was shocked. I lost my breath for a few seconds and then I ran out. "What the hell are you doing on my property? Get out!" I shouted. "Don't scream in front of the kids. We are almost finished. 10 more minutes and we are out." "Get the hell out now!" She started pulling her children out of the pool, dressing them as slowly as she could. I felt like my heart would run from my chest. I was so full of anger. "If I ever see you on my property again, I will make you regret it," I said. "Are you threatening me? That's a crime," she said. "Entering someone's property without their permission is also a crime." "See how dumb you are? A crime is when you kill someone. I just used your pool." Fortunately, she left quickly after that, but I was angry the whole day, always keeping an eye out on the pool. A few days after the incident, I had to leave town for work. I was excited because I really wanted to leave home for a few days. No news about the swimming pool in the next few days while I was gone, and that made me happier, and I could not wait to go home and swim a little. As I entered the front yard, I could hear some voices, but I didn't know if they came from my house or a neighbor's, so I went into the backyard. My Karen neighbor and her kids swimming in my pool again. I thought I would lose my temper and go crazy on them. "Get out now," I told her. "Stop acting like this pool is yours, or this house or this property. This is all God's, and God loves us all equally. I'm sure He would allow me to swim in your pool." "All I can do is treat all of you equally, you and your kids. I'm going to come near the swimming pool and pull every single one of you out." She then got angrier and she finally left. She threatened me and shouted at me about what a bad man I am. Morning came quickly, and I guess you sleep better when you are angry, and I finally decided I should take a swim. I prepared a cold drink, towel and everything else that I needed, and as I went into the backyard I was shocked. Karen put bleach in my pool, a very big amount, and as I walked around to check it, I also noticed that she also turned off the pump. That was the moment I decided to go to the police and finally press charges against her. When the police came home with me, I showed them the ruined pool and the videos in which I caught her on my security camera. Unfortunately, Karen did not have to go to jail, but just paid a very expensive fine. She sold her house and lost custody of the kids to her ex-husband. She paid the fine with the money she made on the house and then she disappeared. I have no idea where she is now, but I don't want to know. All I can say is that I am sure she is an annoying neighbor anywhere she goes. And yeah, Ripe stars, if you have ever dealt with entitled annoying neighbors, then please feel free to share your story either in the comments or on r/Ripe Stories on Reddit, which is our own subreddit. Thank you very much. And by the way, Ripe stars, the next one is gonna be recorded with different audio settings, so please let me know if the first or the second story sounds better. This one was posted by user SierraTO and it is titled "Shut Your Window." This is my first time posting, so please bear with me. I have lots of stories of Karens, but I figured I would start with the oldest and most tame. This was back in the early 90s, I was maybe 20 at the time. I was a smoker, but because my mother had a heart condition, I smoked on our porch instead. My friend, whom was also a neighbor across the street, and I like to hang out on the porch and chat while we smoke. I am going to paraphrase this as best as I can, but this was a long time ago, so I don't have the exact wording. For a few days, whenever we went outside after 8 or 9 p.m, my neighbor would yell at us from her bedroom window for talking so loud. We were just talking in a normal voice, but because it was upsetting her, we lowered our voices by about 50%. That did not satisfy her though, and she yelled at us again. I told her we were talking quietly, and if it bothered her that much, then she should shut her window. "I don't have to shut my window," she yelled, "but you have to be quiet." This went on for a few days, with us repeating that she should just shut her window, and then she said, "I've had enough. I have called the cops and now you are in for it. They are going to arrest you both." We stayed outside and waited for the police officer to show up. He came over and said they received a noise complaint in my 50% volume. I told him what was going on and the words exchanged. He asked if this was the volume that I had been speaking in. We both confirmed that it was. He asked me if I had a radio going, and I told him no, that other than our alarm clocks we did not own any radios. I invited him in the house to see. He confirmed that there were no radios/stereos, and then he asked about my car. I told him it did not work. It was my first car, an old Beta 73 Chevy Nova that barely ran. He confirmed the radio did not even work. We went back to my porch, still with me speaking in half volume and him speaking in a normal voice, when all of a sudden my neighbor decides to yell at us again. "I told you to shut up. I can still effing hear you. And tell your guy friend to go home because he is yelling. I called the cops and you're going to get in so much trouble," she screams. I calmly told her to shut her window. She starts screaming that she doesn't have to and that we are in so much trouble. The cop said that I had a right to speak in normal speaking tones regardless of the time, but especially when it was not even close to 11 p.m, which is the noise ordinance time. He told us that it was our choice if we wanted to continue talking quietly or if we wanted to speak at normal volume levels. He said he would take care of it. While he is talking to me, she is still yelling at us and the officer to keep it down. He finally said, "Ma'am, this is the police. Shut your window and I'll be over there in a moment." She started to argue that she didn't want to, but he was insistent that she close the window. She closed it about halfway, but he simply said, "All the way closed." Slowly she closed it until we heard it latch. He tells me that once he is done talking to her, I should not have any future problems, but if I did, to give him a call. He gave me his information and then he proceeded to head on over to her house. My friend and I have no clue what he said to her because he talked to her inside her house, but whatever he said must have resonated because she never bothered us again, and whenever we were on our porch talking, she would shut her window. It's probably not a good idea to yell at a cop and tell him to shut up, especially when she called them in the first place. And once again, Ripe Stars, please let me know in the comments if the first or the second story sounded better. Basically, in the first story there was more compression going on, and in the second story the audio was, let's say, more untreated. I prefer the second, but maybe that's just me. And the next one is titled Malicious Compliance on Landlord. So my best friend had moved out of state with her family for several years. She was never really happy there as she is a small town country girl in a big city. So when her marriage dissolved, she decided she needed a change. She was homesick but did not want to go back home. She wanted to live close enough that she could visit often, and she wanted to be in a similar setting to home. While on a camping trip, she fell in love with a small town that was about 5 hours from her children's father and about 6 hours from her hometown. Looking around the town, she finds a small house that is for rent and she decides to reach out to the owner about the details. It's not a great house, it looks terrible, hence why I call it the crack shack, but nothing that some hard work and a little bit of money could not fix. The landlord tells her that the house is livable, but it is definitely a fixer-upper. It's been vacant for a while, and they just recently had a man that kept breaking in at night but assured her the cops were aware and the guy had not been back in months. However, he had done a lot of damage. He was willing to make a deal with her. If she was willing to pay for supplies, he would reimburse her, and if she would do the work on the house and pay all of the utilities, he would not charge her rent until the repairs were complete. He would also draw up legal documents that if she decided she wanted to buy, he would sell it to her for $15,000, as in its current state it was not worth more than that. She thought it over a bit and insisted on having the legality of it all taken care of prior to move-in day. And he agreed. Over the next few weeks, paperwork starts flowing in. She reads it, signs it, sends it back. Before she can move in, she needs to make a couple of minor repairs. A plumbing issue, a damaged ceiling, and 2 broken doors. She does this, sends him the receipts, registered mail, keeps a copy for herself, and a few days later, she gets notification that he signed for the letter. A week goes by, then 2, then 3, and then nothing. She tries to call him, no answer. She emails, sends a letter, nothing. A neighbor tells her the guy is having health issues and has been in the hospital, so for sure that has to be the holdup, so she moves in on schedule and continues repairing the house. Fast forward a year, she has cleaned up the junked up yard, replaced all the doors and storm doors, repaired several windows, plumbing, electrical, even replaced the hot water tank, repaired the furnace, and the supplies have arrived to fix the roof. When who finally appears in her mail. The landlord pops up, explains he has been in and out of the hospital, but he has received all of the receipts and photos of the work, everything looks good, I'll be in touch. So she starts getting together a team of friends who all have experience in roof work. The day before they are supposed to start, another email comes in. After speaking to my attorney, I have decided that you've been squatting in my house for 1 year without having paid any rent. The amounts on your receipts are unreasonable and I won't be repaying you for the work you have done. I will forgive the first 3 months of your time there. This should more than compensate you for the work already done, and not even close to the cost of supplies. You have 15 days, which is the minimum notice allowable in her state, to pay the sum of $9,000 or move. If you refuse, legal action will be taken. So she replies, reminding him of the lease she signed and the agreement they made, and he responds with, "My lawyer has no record of a lease on file. When he sent your copy to you, the post office returned it, so technically it's null and void if I say it is. Proof that we ever made this agreement." So she dug through her records, sent him copies of every email he sent her laying out the terms. Thinking he's older, he's been having health issues, maybe he just does not remember. He comes back with, "I don't remember any of that." She also had saved voicemails that he had left on her phone, including one where he says, "We received your signed lease. You cannot start the repairs and move in when you are ready. Don't forget to send me all the receipts related to home repairs." She offers up a compromise of, "I will eat up the full cost of repairs and pay all the utilities. I'll pay a reduced price in rent to compensate me for my time and money put in." She even made an offer that she would eat the cost of the repairs and start paying rent going forward, but asked that he accept the work already done to compensate her for the repairs already made, which even this was a deal where the landlord made out better, as she had put more money into everything at this point and she only made repairs according to a previously agreed upon list. "Well, we can certainly try to work out a new deal, but I'm still not paying these receipts. You're going to start paying rent. If you want to buy the house, it's going to be $30,000. In this area, even after the repairs, he would be lucky to sell it for this." She tells him she needs to think about his offer, but she doesn't. She calls me as I can be creative. I tell her first to talk to a lawyer. She did, and while the lawyer thought with all of the correspondence she could probably win the case, she decided the house was not worth it to her. So then she called the landlord back and tells him, after careful consideration, I'm going to have to decline on this offer as I wouldn't have agreed to it before moving in. He then tries to negotiate another deal, still a horrible one, still did not include repayment of any sort for the work she put into it, and says this is the final offer, accept it or get out. This is where I came into the story. Since he was unwilling to pay for the repairs, I sat down and made a list of everything she had done to that house and devised the following plan. One by one, she and the team that was supposed to help fix the roof went through the house and unfixed everything she had previously repaired. The new doors were removed, the old ones were still stored in the garage, took down all the drywall she had put up but had not yet finished, removed all pipes, fittings, fixtures, appliances and every last shingle that was meant for the roof and made a few calls and sold every bit of it to a family friend who happened to be in need of some home repair of his own. A month after she was gone, she received another email from him insisting that she pay up or move out. This is where she replied with, "I'm sorry, our business concluded a month ago when I moved to the next town over. No need to pay me back for my hard work on your house, as I have removed everything that I paid for in order to recoup my cost. I left the house in precisely the same condition as I found it, minus the several dumpsters full of garbage I had to remove from the house and property before I could even begin the repairs. According to my calculations, this fact alone should bring us even up." That was a year ago, and once in a while she still gets the random email from him insisting she owes him money. She no longer replies. And yeah guys, I would say you cannot get any better revenge on an awful landlord. And the next one starts like this. My current neighbors are terrible. It is an Indian couple that fight constantly. I have had to go over to their house and ask them to stop because they are loud enough. I can hear them in my house. When they are not fighting, they are loudly having intercourse in their backyard. And I get it, it is their yard, they can do what they want, but loudly screaming, "Harder, harder!" It is not okay to do outside when other people can hear you. I have kids and now I have to keep a window open because of their behavior. The woman saw my daughter at the neighborhood mailboxes and told her that my wife was a SLUT and other nasty names. I complained to my HOA, who I am sure advised them to knock it off. About 2 weeks after I complained, the police came to my house and said they had received information that I was dealing cocaine. To top it off, a large section of the fence between our properties is falling over due to a tree on their side of the fence having a branch growing into it. They refused to cut the branch and also refused to help pay to repair the fence. It has gone on like this for almost a year. I am moving in 6 weeks. The next one starts like this. I lived next door to an old man that would come over to have a good conversation with my parents every Saturday morning. Over coffee, he kept up the house by himself fairly well since his wife had passed years before. Pretty soon he moved on and the house was put up for sale, but was soon bought by this family of 4 and an uncle we had assumed. From what I remember, it was a man, woman, their kids and the man's brother. Everything was okay at first, they moved in, things were quiet, introduced themselves once and then the party started. And they didn't stop till 5 in the morning most nights. This happened from Friday all the way to Sunday. Being young and my parents having me and my brother in bed by midnight on weekends, this was a big problem. So of course they were extremely frustrated and so was everyone else around that house. Cops were called continuously throughout the weekend. This happened for years. Then they finally built this large garage behind the house. I assumed they moved the parties into that garage because the loud music was now muffled with bass. Finally, around 2003 or 4, one day out of the blue, the police raided the house. Not sure for what immediately, but I remember my dad asking and finally got an answer. Dog fighting and drug trafficking was that house's main income, I am assuming. This was the real purpose for the garage they had built. Around 2005, the violence in the neighborhood got pretty serious and my parents finally had enough with the area, so they decided to move. I miss that old man. I know that wouldn't have stopped the change of the neighborhood, but I think it would have made it a lot easier on my parents and everyone else in that neighborhood. I hope you enjoyed today's stories and I see you again tomorrow.